I talked to Jim Banskoy and Ken Stock about this as well, about kind of their input into the movie. How helpful was that to get, the actual coaches there? And the other thing about this is this was actually filmed, some of it on the actual spot where these games took place. How cool was that?
It's so hilarious because Jim lives, you could probably, maybe not with your arm, but with a slingshot, you could hit his house with a rock from the Norway field. And he would be out there kind of tending the field almost, tamping down the dirt around the batter's box and he was like the grounds crew of the field. And part of it was that, he wanted to make sure that on day 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 of filming that the crew hadn't kind of, churned up the field so much through our walking around and the way the machinery is and stuff like that it wouldn't look good for when we were filming it. But part of it was he knew the movie would be over in a few days and that the teams that play there were not going to want their field jacked up. So, he's a practical, he's a wonderful guy, hilarious, so funny just to listen to him talk. If you heard when you talked to him, he might have had his serious mode on with you, but he just, when you sit around and talk to the guy, he's hilarious. And I will say that the film couldn't have been made without the two of them, and it's absolutely true. It literally couldn't have been made. It couldn't have been made because of their approval of their life rights, but it also couldn't have been made because at the budget level we made the movie at, we couldn't have afforded to kind of get some of the stuff we got, and we might have had a harder time getting people to let us use their places for filming, but these guys have such they're so kind of beloved in the community that that people just throw their doors open to them, and that creates a different feeling. It made the movie experience almost as important as what the final movie was going to be. We really enjoyed ourselves. It was hard. There were up times and down times, but we when all was said and done, we kind of knew that. You talked about Kent saying that I took ownership of the part and stuff. I've played like a World War II hero, and I've played a counterterrorist person on the World War II thing was on Memphis Belle, and I played a counterterrorism expert in 24, and I've played all these kind of parts that are full of qualities that are really admirable and heroic and so forth. I think I was more intimidated to play Kent Stock than I was any of the other parts. And I think it's because I've always felt that if I wasn't acting, and for whatever reason, acting kind of did, if my people didn't want to hire me anymore, didn't want to do it anymore, the thing that I would do is be a teacher. And I think it's something I'd be really good at. But somehow when confronted with playing a teacher, all of a sudden the kind of idea of being a teacher that's been in my mind met the that rubber met the road of trying to portray it, and I didn't want to be a fraud. I didn't want to be, and there's such a balance between kind of being naturalistic and comfortable in front of the camera, and kind of comfortable in what you're doing, and also wanting to make it interesting. So if you try too hard, then it's not credible, and if you don't try hard enough, it's just bland. So that trying to toe that line was a challenge, and I kept looking to Kent, and he's you heard him, right? He's got a deep voice. When he's walking, he doesn't, he's not bouncing along. He's walking with confidence and strength, and I wanted to be able to try and internalize some of that, and him being around. Never mind that we loved like playing catch together and hitting balls to each other, playing pepper and all that kind of stuff. To me, honestly, that was more fun than making the movie.
Well, when I was talking to Jim, actually, it's very interesting because he was actually sitting looking at the field at the time. About halfway through the interview, all of a sudden I heard a train whistle. So that was really kind of cool, when you portray the train in the movie and things. So
it must have been a short interview because if it was 4 minutes long, then it took 2 minutes. If it was 10 minutes long, then it took 5. Any longer than that, and you would have heard more than one whistle.
We got the same
those trains. I think it's something like 36 trains a day go through there, and it's. I guess when you're sleeping, his house is like right near the train tracks, and I guess when you're sleeping near the train tracks, it becomes almost comforting to hear them. But if you're not used to it, it's pretty, you think, man, that's my wife's grandfather, he lives right next to a train track, but, you're getting one every 45 minutes or something like that. This is one like every 8 to 12 minutes.
Yeah, we've got that line running through Carroll as well. And I remember when I first moved here, my wife was used to it, but I was the same deal. First few nights, I didn't sleep much, but you did get used to it after a while. But the one scene that actually was kind of interesting because I asked Kent about it, and I was about to ask Jim about it, and Jim stopped me and he said, "Now I want to ask you a question. What did you think about the trophy scene at the end of the movie?"
Mm-hmm.
And what a movie! I never thought the camera was going to stop. There was so many, and when it got through there, I remember thinking, "There's got to be more than 20 trophies there." So I rewound, or went back, watched it again, and I counted. There's actually 20. So
you
just
thought the movie would kind of want to embellish it a little bit for dramatic purposes, like 20 isn't enough.
But it was just that scene alone, I guess, just really was a moving scene.
Yeah, David Mickey Evans, the director, who's so lovely and is a really intense guy and really wants to get it right and very passionate. He did Sandlot and he wrote Radio Flyer. I believe he wrote Radio Flyer. He the one thing that 1,000%, no questions asked. He didn't have to talk to anybody. He knew what was going to happen. He went into that high school and said to his art director and said, "Build a trophy case and build it strong because it's going to stay there." and with the lights and everything else, and you just think you can say 20 out of 24 state championships, and it kind of sounds like, wow, man, that's a lot, But for the camera to go slowly through it and to let you have that feeling of each one of those things it's like when there's a moment of silence or something it's somewhere and sometimes it's kind of a fast moment of silence and sometimes kind of a long moment of silence, what's a moment?
Mm-hmm.
But to take to a cinematic standard a moment as you pass by with that kind of emotional music going, to reflect on the fact that each one of these trophies represents a moment in time. It represents those people. It represents their families. It represents what was going on in the community. And then you put to the next one, and that was the year before. And then you go to the next 2 years before that. And you just, by the time you get to, that's the power of cinema. The power of cinema is that you can create an emotional experience for people that really celebrates the accomplishment, in a way that is, I don't know, worthy of it, and lets other people know how they can feel about it too, or how they should at least be aware that the people who did it feel about it. And that's, trophy cases a lot of times, you go to high school and they're kind of dingy, but they're all up there, and they're important when a 40-year-old guy comes in with his kid and says, "Oh, I was on the JV basketball team, see, and we won that little trophy," and the kid kind of looks at it, and on some level it means something, and to me this is like the World Series of high school accomplishments, and the trophy scene just, if you saw it. So what was the question you were going to ask? Oh, that was the question you were going to ask.